Are you looking to establish a powerful online presence for your brand? Look no further than Live the Dream Media. Our team of experts possess the capabilities and skills necessary to make it happen. From creating compelling content to analyzing data and making strategic decisions, we've got it covered. Don't let a lack of social media know-how hold you back. Visit ltdmedia.net for more information.
Copper Creek Cookies, Copper Creek Cookies, coppercreekcookies.net.
We can print anything on our soft vanilla logo cookies. We deliver them and other sweet treats locally. We are located at 4249 West Ina Road, Suite 121. Call us 520-300-1131. We bake smiles.
Copper Creek Cookies, Copper Creek Cookies, coppercreekcookies.net.
Welcome back to another episode of Now You Know. And I have the honor and privilege this morning to be with a good friend of mine, Mr. Christopher DeSimone. Welcome aboard, buddy.
Good morning, amigo. How are you?
I'm awesome.
Thanks for having me.
Well, it's my pleasure. We've been setting this up now for quite a while. I'm going to just jump right in here and read your quote.
Goodness.
Your tagline. Radio show host, friend of small business, advocate for the working poor and taxpayer, and incorrigible foodie.
That's all true.
I haven't got the invite. I live down the street from you, by the way, and he's posting these incredible buffets, for the lack of a better word. And
it's part of our relaxation at the DeSimone household.
I can't be 2 miles from you, just so you know. So how'd you get here, Chris? Where are you from?
I am from the New York, Long Island area.
That's a shocker to me. Where at?
So born in Nassau County on Long Island. Family is from Brooklyn and Queens in the city. And my father was a partner in a family business in Canarsie, Brooklyn, which was a thing called the Brooklyn Terminal Market. And it was a family business that did wholesale of domestic stuff. Anything you could buy at a supermarket, we would sell it to you by the case. Toilet paper, tuna, cereal, pasta, you name it. But at the same time, being Goombas, we imported retail from all over the Mediterranean. So I was spoiled with the best products on the planet, where we imported olives, olive oil, seafood, everything from the Mediterranean, mostly Italy and Spain.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
I didn't know that, but I'm not surprised by that.
So I grew up in a family of small business owners, and it's probably why I am the way I am.
Yeah, we were talking about that a little bit off camera. And well, let's just jump in it right now. How important is small business to our economy, to the world's economy, but to our economy?
Well, when we were talking off air, you talked about a lifeblood of a community. It's the lifeblood of a community, right? They keep telling me that 90% of all employees work for a small business owner. Sounds kind of lifebloody to me, right? I don't know. I mean,
lifebloody. I like that.
I mean, you, the small business owner of America, is putting food on the table.
And when you consider that more than half the American population now works for government in some capacity, and then you've got the corporations that have that small percentage, we're the only ones really, at the end of the day, small businesses who I'm referring to. I'm a small business owner of several small businesses.
Yep.
We're the only ones really producing and paying in, is the way I look at it. Everybody else is taking.
Well, it's also easier
efforts.
to pick apart the small business guy or gal because they have no representation. It's because
they don't have a legal department to talk to, or
they're
a PR
busy,
department,
or lobbyists.
Right
now, they can join a chamber thing, but most chambers, when it comes, I love the Marana Chamber; they're my favorite.
Amen.
But when it comes to chambers that say they lobby, so I'm a big critic of the Tucson Metro Chamber and the Hispanic Chamber in Tucson because they've been there forever, and this is one of the worst communities for small business in the Western United States. Yeah.
It's tough. I've been doing small business for 18 years.
Well, you're in Marana, and it's
and
tough.
and they're good to work with, but still the bureaucracy. I got county affiliations with the food department and stuff.
Sure, that's true.
And I'm not even going to start on that because that's a whole series in and of itself. I will say though, in all fairness, since I did bring it up,
Sure.
They're a lot easier to work with when you know what we have learned. If you educate yourself, in other words, as a business owner,
Oh yeah.
getting along with them is a lot easier.
But-
let me tell you what they said one time. I won't tell
Sure.
who said it, but I said, the way I look at you as a business owner is you guys should be educating me,
That's
informing me, helping me. And what I get or feel is enforcement.
It's so so we live in
Play by these rules.
So this is why Marana is the leading community in southern Arizona. I don't have as much. I know Sarita does good work, but I know Marana.
Mm-hmm.
Marana's public servants have the attitude of, how can I help you? Oro Valley, where I live,
Amen.
the city and the county of Pima, the city of Tucson and Pima, when you walk up to that office, it's, why are you here?
Or you can't do that.
Right.
I've
Why
heard
are
both.
Why are you bothering us? And that's the difference.
I live in Oro Valley as well.
Yep.
Well, I have this line. I sleep in Oro Valley. I live in Marana.
There's truth to that.
I'm here every day.
Oro
basically
Valley is a
7
nice
days
place
week.
to live.
It's a great place to live. But if you want to do business, you come on over here to Marana.
So the last couple of years, Oro Valley governance has been inconsistent at best. So I keep telling them, just make it the best suburb of Marana possible. That's all I want.
That's awesome.
Let's cut the
You
crap.
hearing that, David?
I just
I
want
got that.
Yeah, I want it to be the best suburb of Marana, because Marana's, they get it.
Yes, they do.
And Marana has so much playing field to run down up
Yes.
I-10
Yes.
where we're landlocked.
Yes.
And Oro Valley politics has been no growth. This mayor that we have now, Joe, was reelected by the no growth movement of
Right.
Oro Valley.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Now Marana better watch it though. Okay? Those two guys that ran 2 years ago, the California guys, they were closer than anyone thought.
54 votes in
Right.
third, fourth.
And I
fifth
love my
place.
boy Mayor Ed, but he's getting old.
Yep. Ed sits right there 3-4 times a month, and we've discussed this.
Yep.
He's running again for sure.
Sure.
But I'll tell you something else we talk about around here a lot. Where's the bench? Who's the new blood? Where's the next group of leaders?
Which is true.
And there's not many. There's a few,
So I would
but they're not. They haven't identified themselves yet. Maybe a better way of saying it.
So what I would say is, because we're networked so heavy on this side of town, we know a lot of people, right? We go to these chamber events, and we know that there's people out there who are sharp cookies. We actually have to start asking them,
We do.
right? I mean,
We do.
You got to start saying,
Hey, have you thought about? You know what though, Chris? And this is a fact too. David and I especially have probably asked conservatively 6 to 8 people, and we're not just running around just saying, "Hey."
Sure.
We're thoughtfully.
you're not outside Costco saying, hey, bro.
But it's a huge sacrifice for a younger person that's got 2 or 3 or 4 kids. Maybe
Amen.
they're still going to school themselves.
Well,
They're
and
working.
so in Oro, I've trust me, I'm going to run one day for something. But you can't do radio on an FCC regulated and run for office. at
You
the
have
same time.
alternatives.
All right. So now what happens is that,
By the way, you would have my support immediately.
thank you. I appreciate that. I got one.
Ditto.
Yeah, there's one vote. Well, 2.
I'm
and
back
your
here,
wife.
guys.
Thank you.
There
I
he
didn't
is.
want to speak for David. He didn't say
Got you.
anything. He was a little quiet. Now, what I was going to say was, so in Oro Valley, if you're a council person, you get paid 10 G's a year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I asked a couple of people there, over experienced council people, let's say I half-assed this job. How many hours is it going to take?
Yeah.
They're like 30. 30 on a half-ass.
Yeah.
So I can't displace 30 hours of my week for 10 G's.
Right.
I just can't.
Well, they pay a little more than that in Marana,
They do, but still.
but I'm pretty fiscally conservative about stuff. But you
Yep.
know what I said to them recently, this last election, is go in right now and let's get some pay raises for these positions.
That's what people don't understand. So people always, like the city of Tucson's 24th thou.
I think that's fair. I don't
Well,
know that they're earning
it's
it,
not
but
fair. So what does it attracts nothing but not great people to run for office.
okay.
That's
What
the
would it
problem.
be in your world?
So I think it, for a city of Tucson, should be easy 90 G's.
600,000.
I think,
give or take.
I think it's 90,000 for a city of Tucson.
I'd be good
Marana
with that.
should be at least, and Oro Valley should be at least 50 apiece.
Why we didn't throw those numbers around. We were trying to get there, but I'm with you
That's
on
what I
that.
think.
Let's start raising.
And so, like the city of Tucson, they have a $1.9 billion budget.
Is that right?
It's there. The money's there. Okay.
1.9.
Now they also have in the city of Tucson. They also have 3 or 4 aides. So what I would say is, if you want to be a full-time person, get rid of one of your aides and get yourself paid 90. If you want to be a part-timer, enjoy your 24 G's and don't complain.
No, I like that. I hadn't thought
You get
that.
what you pay for.
I'm not, well, you do. I hadn't thought that big. I'm trying to incrementally get there. Can you imagine the shock if we went?
So what happens is no one votes. Even when they vote for it, it's a $10,000 raise. It always gets shut down because everyone in the city of Tucson who doesn't want to get rid of them during re-election says they don't deserve it.
Right. Here we are back to we got to educate the voters a little bit. I'm with you,
I
though.
feel like I've hijacked your poor show because
No,
we started talking about, Chris, where'd you grow up? And all of a sudden,
No, I love this. Well, I knew this was what was going to happen. Come on. No, I think you're absolutely right. We could arm wrestle a little bit over the amount of money, but with the job now, they're going to have to do I guess we need better results if we're going to pay a little more. Is kind of what I'm hoping. And maybe you're on the job more and you can get more done.
They're wasting money on crap every year. So why not pay more money for the position and attract better candidates?
You would get better candidates. You know you would. Geez, I can get $75,000 to go do this.
If you told me I was going to displace 30 hours a week for Oro Valley but get paid 50 G's, DeSimone could figure that out in the DeSimone household math.
You would have a residency here at Fresh Catering and catering this room if it comes to that.
Well, whatever we got to do to make it happen.
So, so you're New York, you're Long Island, you're Brooklyn, you're over there around Flatbush. When did you get to Arizona? Did you come to school here? Is that what happened?
88, and my dad had a horrible case of osteoarthritis, so he chased dry weather. Mm-hmm. And I came here the year between my junior and senior year of high school, and I finished up at Sabino for my senior year of high school, and then I went to Northern Arizona University to get a degree in hotel restaurant management.
I was doing that. My first career. I thought I was there. Yeah, that was pretty cool. It was a pretty cool gig.
Yeah,
and then life.
Sure.
And I got into sales, which was even more lucrative.
Oh, it's always more lucrative if you do it right.
Found if you did it right, that you always had a job. So you're here. You're going to Northern. You're studying hotel management, hospitality. How'd we get to radio? How'd we get to? And I know you do my other things.
Sure.
My
real business is my brother and I have a company called Blue Chip Planning.
Exactly.
And we do financial savings stuff where we concentrate on savings vehicles that preserve principal but pay you decidedly much more than you would get at a bank.
And that's called Blue Chip.
Blue
correct?
Chip Planning.
Yes.
BlueChipPlan.com.
Yeah, we'll make sure that's all listed. We can say it several times.
We're shameless pluggers at Wake Up Tucson.
Sponsored to this morning's episode, sponsored by Blue Chip.
So how did I get in the radio?
So you're in your 1990 roughly. You're graduating. You're
so
going
what happened
to college.
was in the end, I got working with a buddy older guy that I became friends with, who owned a hospitality consulting business. So I started working with him, and
more of as a consultant, or
we were doing property management consultant stuff for family-owned businesses. So we actually worked for Bert Lopez, managing all of his hotels for a few years. Then we moved up and did the Golf Villas at Oro Valley project, right as that was getting finished up. And what happened was, I'm a networker. I like going.
You like people.
I do. So before the Oro Valley Chamber, it was called the Northern Pima County Chamber of Commerce. And my friend Jerry Bustamante was the head of that. Jerry now is the community relations guy for Hud Bay Minerals with the Rosemont mine in that area. So Jerry and I are having lunch one day, and I'm talking about kind of local politics stuff. And I came from the thing that got me interested in local politics was we have a thing called Visit Tucson, right, which is funded by bed taxes from Pima County, the city of Tucson, and Oro Valley. And I found that they were not really great stewards of the money, thought they were running it in an ineffective way. And as I'm trying to kind of bring a little justice to that, people are like, you need to look at their contracts. Go see what the contracts are. And that got me started on the quest. But I was explaining something to Jerry about local politics, probably in a wise, Alec-y New York way, like I'm telling you right now, right? And he says, point the finger, and he goes, you should do a radio show.
Yeah.
And I said, what the hell does that mean? He goes, no one talks about this kind of stuff like you would right now. So members of that chamber were Doug and Mary Martin, who owned Good News Communications. They owned, at the time, KVOI, a music station, and 3 Christian stations. And I set up a meeting with Mary. He said, hey, Mary, you should talk to this guy. So I had a Saturday morning show called Business and Banter.
I remember that.
And that was at 7 in the morning on a Saturday. And I chose that on purpose because I wanted people have that routine that they wake up every morning, they got the coffee going, they're having breakfast, and they listen to talk radio. So I figured they're still doing the same thing at 7 on a Saturday. And that kind of was true.
And there's less interference, if you will.
Correct.
Now, what year is this? Is this like...
That's 15 years ago.
Okay, I was going to say, because
So,
I remember
08.
that. Okay.
So, so I did that for about a year. And what happened to change the trajectory of going to every day was my friend Joe Higgins was running for Pima County Board of Supervisors. Now, what happened was, do you remember Bob McMahon?
I do.
So
Yes.
Bob McMahon, he used to own a bunch of restaurants in Tucson. And Bob would ask me to come back to the incorrigible foodie side of the equation. He knew I could honestly speak about his food. I used to work as a chef, believe it or not, in the old days.
Yeah.
And what happened was he said, I got this Italia place on Tanca Verde. You want to try it out and get your... So me, him, and Rick Grinnell were sitting there having lunch. And he said, hey, how do you like the food? And I said, well, 2 more notches, you'll get to Romano's Macaroni Grill. You're getting there. Okay? And so then he's like, right? And Italia went out of business literally 8 to 10 months after it opened, so shocking. But he said, have you had Joe Higgins on your show? And I said, what's a Joe Higgins? And so Joe was running in a primary against Ann Day. And Joe was fighting the local politics from the sign code guy. He started Sports Buzz Haircuts here in Tucson. He had Gotta Go Wireless. He had a small business garbage company called Talking Trash, right? And so he kind of came from that side of this equation. And what happened was Joe was Mr. Chamber Award winner, Trio gave him an award, and all these people would be like, hey, you should run for office. You would be great. It'd be great to have a business guy in there. Oh, okay. So he runs for office, but he runs against Ann Day, who was the comfortable candidate that they all knew how to basically manipulate, God rest your soul, Ann, to get her stuff done, right? And so all those business people they told him to run, when he said he was running against Ann Day, they're like, who are you?
Yeah.
We don't know who you are.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So what happened was he came on the show. We did an hour together. We had instant rapport, but similar kind of stories. We were both cradle Catholics. We both have kids, 2 kids apiece, exactly the same ages, all these kind of interesting things. And then this masochistic interest in local politics.
That's what it is.
So Joe lost the race to Ann by a couple of points, and we just remained friends. So we're at a place on Broadway. It's now the Welcome Diner that never opened after pandemics, but it used to be called Chafin's Diner. And Alex did great food out of there. And we're having breakfast one day, and we're literally having this discussion, deep dive. This is how the sausage gets made. And I said to him, remember how Jerry and George said, hey, this is a show. It's a show about nothing, right? We did this. We just did a show.
Yeah.
He goes, what do you mean? And so I said, we're going to do a show. So Doug at KVOI had a morning drive local, but nothing in the afternoon. And I always thought that a good afternoon drive local show would be good. Yeah. So I said, I'm going to drive to so I drove right to the station. And I pulled into the station. I walked into Doug's office. Hey, what's going on? And I said, me and Joe think about doing a show. We know we could bring advertisers in from all of our connections. We're thinking morning drive time. And he goes, it's so weird you walked into my office. I said, why is that? He goes, my morning drive guy just quit on me 40 minutes ago. How's that for being on the right path?
Yeah.
And we started with an hour. Then we went to 2 hours. And then Joe would do the first 2, and then I'd do a show called the DeSimone Daily Double after that. We'd do like a full deep dive interview with someone every day. And then Joe went off to build charter schools. So Joe is the main reason why there's Lehman Academies of Excellence all over Arizona.
They're so awesome.
So I was on the board of the Lehman Academies for the first 4 to 5 years as we built, Marana, the Oro Valley one, the Golf Links one. We took over a school in Sierra Vista, and then we built the final one I was around for was the one that we put on Pima. And
those
Wilmot.
are incredible schools.
There's a lot of people in Marana.
Those are incredible.
Who I'll tell you who this is off the air. I can't tell you who it is, but someone that we both know in Marana who's involved in the business community moved here because of a spouse's job. Now, what happened was when she got here, she saw the city of Tucson and went, ugh.
Yeah.
So then she went to Marana and went, this is better.
Yeah.
But then school-wise, the Marana School District is okay. It's not good.
Yeah.
Okay? It's mediocre. I'd give it a mediocre rating. And she was worried about that, coming from back east, whatever. And the thing that saved her and her husband was that she could put her kids at the Lehman Academy.
When I first moved to Arizona back in 1991, Tammy and I we got here in 91. 88 is when I first got here. But I worked for Challenge Charter School.
Okay.
Way back in the day. I can't remember what year. And was part of that original when the charter schools really started hitting the ground in Arizona. And I've been a huge supporter of that. School choice, it should be, we shouldn't even be discussing this.
Well, what
you
happened
should
was
just have options available to your kids, and your bank account shouldn't dictate where your kids should go. Is what
so. Joe and I last November were invited to it was Heritage Foundation Goldwater Institute up in Phoenix forum on academic freedom, and we're one of the leaders. Now, if somehow Republicans blow elections coming up, and they don't have control, the other side's going to rip that apart.
Mm-hmm.
They hate it.
They're already working pretty hard on the the earned
ESAs,
the ESAs,
empowerment scholarship, and
that's what roughly 7,000 a kid.
Correct.
And I'm talking to a parent just a couple of weeks ago, homeschooling 4 children, and I'm like, the state's got $28,000 for you.
You're correct.
And they're like, what? And I'm like, you just got a $28,000 pay increase. Get after it right now.
So think about this.
Money.
So you have to give these parents the escape valve from the public schools. So if you look at Sunnyside, TUSD, Tucson Unified School District, and Amphi, they stink. All right? And so when
I'm nodding my head for just let me agree with you.
When people ask me, they say, what's the number one issue? If I'm speaking in front of a Rotary group and they say, what's the number one issue? And I'll go, water is always the number one issue, right? We're in a desert. Yeah. There's issues. Number 2, I would have said, if I said 5-10 years ago, I said, well, we got to have a more business-friendly environment and a level playing field. I'm down to number 2 is literacy.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you.
We're cranking out kids that can't read.
Exactly. I mean, a lot of them. Used to be it was a small percentage, Johnny can't read, but now and they're not only can't read, we were talking about this off camera a minute ago, but they have no clue on finance. Did you know that 93% of all Americans retire needing Social Security to survive? It's insane.
It's absolutely true.
It's insane. And that number hasn't changed, and you can look that up on the census if you want to fact check me. But since the advent of Social Security, 1935, that fact has been in place ever since.
And
we all have the same
human
40
nature.
years.
We got to spend what's in front of us. Sad to say.
We got to.
So let me ask you a stats question. What percentage of kids at Tucson Unified School District, which is the largest school district in Tucson, K through 12, are reading at the level of grade they're in? What percentage of kids do you think? This is according to the state of Arizona.
I'm going to be optimistic, and this number's probably lower than this, but I'd say 2/3, maybe 2/3. It's probably a third.
Are at reading level?
Yeah.
16%. If it's 2/3, you're great. 2/3 is a champion.
16% of Tucson Unified School District.
12. Amphi is only like 48%.
Correct
for
me
Amphi.
if I'm wrong.
And that includes the vaunted Ironwood Ridge and Oro
My
Valley.
kids went there,
I'm just saying.
No, I'm with you. I didn't have a clue it was 16%.
Marana's probably sub 50.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
So what we're not doing is, so kids are not getting it from their parents. Right?
That's where it starts, by the way.
So that's part of the.
Come on, parents.
That's part of the problem.
Hey, Chris, I got a stat for you. It's 42% for MUSD.
Okay, so sub 50%. Thank you, sir.
Anything under 80 is unacceptable.
So, like the vaunted Cat Foothills, the most capitalized public school in Tucson, they start off. So, a very important grade is 3rd grade.
Okay.
If the kid's not enjoying reading and reading at level at 3rd grade, they will struggle the rest of their life. Yeah. Okay. So, Cat Foothills used to, last time I looked at it, they were like 78% at 3rd grade, but then it dropped to like 58% by 10th grade. So you want the biggest problem facing us right now? Faith family schools, part of schools is literacy. Mm-hmm. It's frightening.
So not only is it financial, which I'm pounding, it's reading, writing, and arithmetic.
So
we've fallen off.
We're in late April. We're going to have high school graduation ceremonies in about 3.5 weeks. I always say it's the most bittersweet day in Tucson's calendar. Should be happy, right? We're going to have our cake and our sandwich and all that jazz, right? We're cranking out a good portion of kids. We're graduating them, and they're not ready for anything.
Yeah.
They should barely be. So when we talk about vocations, right? Now I'm sure you're the same way. I wish we get more kids doing vocational training. Okay.
Right out again at an early age.
I have a 67-old mechanic that when he retires, I'm going to sob like a baby.
Yeah.
Okay? Who's going to replace him? But here's the thing, my friend. You got to read to be able to fix a car. Right?
Yeah.
A kid who doesn't know how to read, I don't want him fixing my car.
Yeah. I don't really want him fixing anything.
Right? You know, you got our boy Ron Arenas coming in tomorrow, right?
Yes.
HVAC.
Yes.
The kid can't read a manual and what's going on because there's so much computerized stuff nowadays.
Yes.
I don't think I want that HVAC in my house.
Sorry, Ron. Check it at the door. Looking forward to that, by the way. You know, I'm kind of floored.
Sorry.
By that number. I mean,
DeSimone has derailed the entire interview.
I'm looking at these stats for these places. It's pretty.
It's a tragedy.
Yeah.
It's a tragedy that.
Amen.
I mean, we're again talking off camera a while ago. I love reading. If I'm not doing this or driving the car, I don't read while I'm driving. I love reading. It's usually things that I'm interested in. It could be current events. It could be sports. It could be reading a menu or a recipe to try something.
That's right. You're a long-suffering Cubs fan, right?
Yeah.
The Ron Say biography.
Yeah.
God bless you.
Yeah. The Penguin. I didn't know we'd bring up the Penguin.
I'm married to a lifelong Cubs fan, so I know the pain.
She a Chicago gal?
No, she's not.
No.
She's her dad was part of a company that built power plants. So she had an army brat kind of life where she would move from project to project. So Maine to Massachusetts, 2 power plants in Florida, Baton Rouge.
And
then he finished up doing the nuclear power plant in Phoenix, the Palo Verde.
WGN brought a lot of fans in.
So that's what happened. She loved baseball. So the superstations was your consistency in the 80s. And of
WGN.
Course, being a classy gal, no one wants to give 2 rats, about the Braves.
Yeah.
And listen, and Pete Van Wieren and Skip Carey are kind of annoying. So go to Harry and Steve Stone. You're much
I
better.
met him twice. I met him twice.
Why
He
not?
was a fun guy.
Well, of course, I miss Harry.
Oh, a lot.
As a Met fan growing up, I hated Harry, but then as I started understanding him, I missed the guy terribly.
See, I grew up in Cardinal country. I grew up in Southern Illinois.
That's right. And he was
He
originally the
was
Cardinal
with
guy.
Jack Buck and
Yep.
KMOX. I remember when he got booted out and all that. But I ran into Harry on a side street club in January one night in
Shocking.
Chicago. And just there was like 8 people in the club, and I sat down right next to him and said,
Good thing
Harry.
Good thing Harry's not around to see what happened to his Bud Light. Hi.
that's just no marketing, no
I just
marketing
derailed it again.
101. No marketing 101 there
Sorry,
at all. Come on.
I just derailed you again on this. I apologize.
That's unbelievable. That's unbelievable. I'm not a beer drinker, so it doesn't really.
What else
affect
you want to
me,
know,
but-
Clint?
Yeah.
Ask me anything.
Well, you talk about local politics, and I want to come back to that a little bit. To me, and we talk about this, an old cliche, but all politics are local
Amen.
in my book.
Yep.
And I want to be part, and this is why I'm proud to be a part of the town of Marana. I want to be a part of a community that's a beacon. Other people, when in 2018, 42,000 people lived, called Marana home.
Yep.
We're now over 60. That's 5 years. We've had a nearly 50% increase in population, not by accident, by the way. And I believe, and I've had people say that were involved in this last campaign that didn't live in Marana, but they lived in the area. I'm going to support candidates in Marana because it's the last beacon of sanity in this region.
There's some truth to
Discounting. I don't want to discount Sahuarita and some other places that
So-
I'm not there often enough. But it seems like they're doing a good
for
job.
Tucson, the region, is we all need to forget the name Tucson.
Mm-hmm.
It's a dead issue.
Mm-hmm.
They're not coming back.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you.
All right?
Unfortunately,
So we are all communities on the edge of an astronomical black hole.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's going on. To the south. So just for an example, we hired a new town manager in Oro Valley.
Mm-hmm.
One guy was from Ohio, Illinois. The other guy was from Westminster, Colorado, which is a beautiful community. Number 2 guy, CFO.
And this
Right.
was last week.
Yeah,
wasn't it?
literally
Yeah.
10 days ago
Yeah.
or so. So they had the meet the candidates thing. So I go up to the guy to Westminster. I have some friends up there who did a little snooping on him, good reviews. And I just pointed at him and go, why are you here? Why would you come here? You're in the Denver,
Yeah.
that Denver region, they're making money hand
Oh,
over
they're
fist.
killing it. Yeah.
All right. Why? And I pointed through the window towards Tucson and Pima County. I go, why would you come to a town, Oro Valley's fine, that's tied to that wagon?
Mm-hmm.
What, are you insane? He's like, I didn't expect that question. I go, well, this is what I do. So down there, it's a crime-ridden hole, okay? And so the hope is Marana keeps killing it. Oro Valley just becomes go back to a community of excellence instead of just a community of okay, as I say what there are now. We don't take care of fields.
No, we
that's a
don't.
whole other story.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I think Vail is going to incorporate. They're going to get that done. And it's different this time. When they did it last time, they had the county didn't support them. Huckleberry and Ray Carroll were running around like a bunch of jackasses poisoning the well, right? And Steve Christie's a much better human being as the supervisor. He's supportive of it. So I think that you could do is Sarita and Vail start growing towards each other, right? And then Oro Valley become a great suburb of Marana, which is going to push towards Casa Grande. Now, if you told me 10 years ago that Casa Grande would be kicking our ass in economic development, I would say, oh, you're crazy.
Yeah. But
right?
they are.
They're killing us. They have real companies there.
Yeah.
Right?
And more coming.
Oh, I'm just saying, right? And so I know Lucid Motors had their little setback with their, they had to lay off some people, but there's nowhere to live in Casa Grande. They're
Where
all
they
living
live.
in Marana.
They live in Marana. 25-minute drive.
I was at
All on
I was
freeway.
at Costco with my wife maybe around the holidays. I saw 4 people walking around with their Lucid black golf shirt on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, half of Lucid's here,
Yeah. Well, they are.
right?
You know, you mentioned a minute ago, and I want to touch on this. The last time you and I spoke together, a couple to 3 weeks ago, you were talking about the Coldwater Institute.
Yeah.
Was either coming to be a part of the show, or you were going to do. You were, and it was about you mentioned crime. This is the crime now in the situation in Phoenix,
Right.
with the
So this place
squatters
called
in the street.
Right. It's called the Zone.
The Zone.
And so what happened was Goldwater did triumph over the city of Phoenix. Basically, they violated their own charter and what was laid down in relation to public safety and different things like that. And all I can tell you is something as similar as cooking
in
south of the Gila.
Yeah. It's unfortunate because
It's all self-inflicted.
and that's
It's
what
all
makes it even
self-inflicted.
more unfortunate is it wasn't a third party or outside source creating this. And I have great empathy for people that are living on the street. I want to help them. But what we're doing now is almost encouraging them
Oh, it is.
to be there. We're not trying to fix the and this is not exclusive to Tucson or Phoenix it seems to be rampant in all the larger
The
cities in
city
the
of
United
Tucson
States.
and the county a little bit. Well, the county's into it too, right? So I call it, they say low barrier housing. Now, the people who understand reality call it no barrier housing.
yeah.
So one person you should get on this show is Lisa Chastain from
Okay.
Gospel Rescue.
You'll have to
Yeah, we will.
Yeah.
So they'll tell you that if you take a broken person and you move the broken person from their tent in the wash to their no barrier housing, they're still broken.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just because you're in a house
Yeah.
doesn't mean you've done anything.
No. You're just shuffling a losing
Absolutely.
deck.
So my question for the city council and people who support this stuff is, let's say they like to say there's 2 to 3,000 homeless people in the streets of Tucson.
What do they call them? Unhoused.
Or unsheltered.
yeah.
Or
Yeah. Well, we're even having
yeah, there's another one.
they're homeless.
Right.
They've got their home in their backpack on their bag and maybe on their bicycle.
So what I always tell them is, let's say it's 3,000. Let's say they blow all of this taxpayer dollars for 3,000 units of housing. Do you really think there won't be 2,000 to 3,000 other homeless people on the street after you did that?
Yeah.
And of course there will.
Yeah.
We are a magnet in the Southwest for such things. Okay. Now, add on top of that, Pima County, with the Casas Elitas Catholic Community Services, has the one-stop shop to bring in illegal immigrants and shoot them all over the country. Right? Well, they just bought a building or they're renting a building on Irvington and I-19 near Drexel area.
Okay.
And they're housing 600 people a day in there. Now, they say when Title 42 supposedly ends from the federal government, that number could be 1,500 to 2,000 a day. So throw 1,500 to 2,000
On
a
top
day.
of the three.
Then with the fentanyl homeless thing, I'm just telling you, Oro Valley, Marana, you need to overinvest in cops
Yeah.
because it's coming up the washes.
Yeah.
I mean, the Ina and Oracle, Safeway, and Walgreens, they already have armed guards over there right now because the theft is getting a little out of hand.
You know, I don't go south the river anymore.
We joke about that all the time.
I
I drive a different car when I go south the river.
I mean, I can't maintain it because the roads are just. When I
But what we're finding out, Clint, is no one needs to go down there.
Exactly.
Right?
What do I need down there? My kid goes to the depot down there, and that's about it.
So remember, I'm a restaurant guy, right? I invented the 23 miles of Mexican food concept for the city of Tucson. I love those people down there. All right.
Right.
But what's happening is my brothers and sisters of Oro Valley and Marana, they're finding out, well, like, why do you go down there?
Yeah.
I said, well, they do amazing work.
Yeah.
Right. But aren't you afraid? Right? Nothing bothers me that way.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, for the average guy
Yeah.
and gal
Yeah.
in the suburbs, they figured it out. They don't really need to go
I don't
down
feel
there.
safe. I don't. It's not that I don't feel safe, but I don't like stepping over all the debris on the street either.
So
and the people, unfortunately.
the best group in Tucson that's doing anything is called the Tucson Crime-Free Coalition. They're up to 2,000 or 3,000 members, and they've had enough. Right? And they have gained some traction at the Pima County Board of Soups. And what they want to do is next to the jail, there's this big empty cement building they have. And what they want to have a place is if you're caught doing something as a homeless fentanyl zombie, whatever you are, you're going to go over there and they're going to figure out whether or not you need help or you need to be arrested. Right? They want to start breaking the pattern a little bit.
Yeah.
Now, the city of Tucson, with their free bus transportation that they started during Rona, that's a problem because that's become a bus system for the criminals.
What does that cost us a year? Now, I say us. I'm not there, but what is that service?
$105 million a year
a year
to run the buses in the city of Tucson.
We got a wow from David.
I heard it.
Wow.
$105 million.
Yes, sir. And then out of the general fund, I think it's about half is coming out because they get federal grants and things like that.
That's crazy.
But so what happens is they have that free because they think they're being they keep thinking they're being compassionate.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And what happens is they're compassionate covers up the reality that it's not compassionate.
Yeah.
So the average person's not riding the bus anymore because bus drivers, the Suntran has literally wrote the letter to the council that says, we don't want free bus drives anymore. Because you've turned our buses into basically rolling drug toilets.
Exactly.
Right? But the Tucson Crime-Free Coalition, I got to give them credit. They are the ones that have been fighting this. And so I'll send you the link. We called it Explain the Pain. I did all 3 hours of show. Every segment was a different business owner telling their tale of woe.
I heard some of that.
Right?
Yeah.
So the guy who always breaks my heart is called Edmund from Edmunds Automotive on Oracle Road in Prince. Nicest guy in the world. He worked for the guy who owned it before, but his dream was always to own his own place. So he owns the place, right? And two stories stick in my mind. Every couple of mornings, he's out there with a push broom. Remember the old days when you were back in Illinois and you would push those autumn leaves?
Yes.
Right? He does that with fentanyl foil wrappers. Okay? And then he's in his office, and all of a sudden he hears a kerfuffle outside, and one of the fentanyl zombie guys jumped his mechanic and is trying to shove a fentanyl pill down his mechanic's throat. So this is what's going on down there.
Daily. Hourly.
Yeah, it's true.
So it's so unfortunate. Hey, David, do a quick number for me. 105 divided by 3,000.
Gotcha.
I had no idea the number was that big.
105 million.
105 million divided by 3,000.
35 grand
A year. Per if we convert some of that, 35,000 a year.
35,000.
35,000 per what?
Per homeless person.
Oh, it's true.
We could make you could start making, I would hope, some improvements.
So it's so funny. Suntran did a survey. They were talking to writers. And two facts. We did it on the air. It's we like to say on the show. If we're not laughing, we're just going to sob, and that's really bad radio, right?
Yeah.
So there were two things that came out of the survey. One is the people who did the survey felt amazingly unsafe being on the bus doing the survey, and then there was a large percentage, over 50% of the people they talked to. When you say, "What's your destination?"
Yeah.
They said, I don't have a destination.
End of the line.
They're just literally
just riding.
So in the summer, it became a cool place to shoot up their to snort their fentanyl, because what they take it with their little thing and inhale the fumes. So anyway, that place has lost all sense of self-respect.
Yeah.
And it's not coming back.
Not anytime soon.
Oh, it's going to crash hard.
Yeah, not anytime
Now,
soon.
we used to say Detroit of the desert 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Now, the difference was Detroit had different kind of legal mechanics that the state took over. Took over the running of Detroit. I don't know if they could do that here.
I grew up near St. Louis. St. Louis kind of gets left out of the conversation.
Sure.
St. Louis is one of the most dangerous, crime-ridden
I remember the scene in. I always remember St. Louis, not from the Cardinals, but from National Lampoon's Vacation.
Yeah, it's true. Hey, at one point,
here's that one gunshot, and Clark says, "Roll them up."
Roll them. At one point, back in the early 80s, I was a bill collector in East St. Louis.
Well, it's good that you're still alive.
I made that they were paying me an unbelievable amount of money. And I worked that job about 6 weeks. And I remember having a discussion with my father, rest his soul, and he looked right at me. And my dad was a really good dude, but he got right to the core and he goes, "Are you crazy?" I'm like, "But Dad," and I was driving an hour plus each way to the job because I didn't live in East St.
Look
Louis.
at you.
Yeah.
I used to have a friend who sold Bibles door to door in some bad neighborhoods. So,
You know, but back to, again, where we live, the people we're involved with, and you mentioned, what was the order? Faith, family, and
schools.
School.
If you're not working on faith, family, and schools, so for all the people
We got to double down on that, Steve, Chris.
So for all the people listening to this who now want to commit suicide while you're in the fetal position, as we talk about the decline of Tucson civilization, right? So you say, what can you do? So number one is you have to pay attention a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I got it. You have 5 different streaming services. I got it. The new Mandalorian came out. Last season sucked. I just want to tell everyone that. But, okay.
You got 4 kids that you're running from soccer practice to softball
But you have to
practice.
start paying attention. So what I tell people first and foremost is you should be going to your school board meeting once a quarter for an hour. Just listen to how things get done. And then go to your local town once a quarter. Spend an hour. You have to be the whole damn meeting. Just if go to a county meeting and see how much money gets blown on a consent agenda where no one talks about it.
And try not to go when there's a hot button issue because the place is going to be packed.
Oh,
go at any other time.
You never know when
you got 3 people. I'm talking about
sure.
the Oro Valley.
Oh,
we can fill that room 6 times over sometimes.
Well, you're a Church of the Nazarenes, so you know exactly what's going on there.
And the rest of the time, there's 3 people in the room. Although I was watching it one night. We were doing something there, and there was a whole bunch of the opposition, for the lack of a better word, and 3 or 4 of our guys there. And I looked at my wife and I said, "We're going."
That is the most interesting. I've seen a lot of rezone battles in Oro Valley. I've been in Oro Valley since '95. I've seen all the great ones. This one's moving up there in the top 3.
You know, I'm going to share something with you from Sunday's message. Craig Coulter, on his 60th birthday, by the way. I'm going to call him out. He said since the pink signs went up on the street,
sure,
you know what I'm referring to.
Yep.
And a matter of fact, I see them in a lot of other locations too. But on that street, our attendance has gone up dramatically since the signs went up.
Interesting.
Isn't that cool? We had over 8,000 people Easter weekend on that campus.
I almost made the mistake of taking Northern from my church to Calle Concordia, and then I went east on the circle and saved myself from that traffic because I saw how many people were
3,500 on Saturday morning and spread out over 4 services plus the satellite at Saddlebrook, 4,500 on Easter morning.
So it's very interesting the way that all that's cooked. I'll just tell you is what I think what's going to happen is, right? So it's either they approve it and they get sued by the neighbors, or they don't approve it and get sued by the church. I think they would rather get sued by the neighbors than sued by the church. Yeah. I think legally that's kind of where this is at. I don't think they have. I think they have. I think they're really close. I think the way what I've read it, and I could be wrong. I'm not a lawyer. I just play one on radio. Is the idea that I think there's not much they can do to tell you guys no.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
Right. When it comes right down to it.
And so if I'm their legal department, I'd rather defend the town against the neighbors than against the church and whatever other organizations that want to jump in on a freedom of religion thing.
But I can tell you, I haven't spoke to anybody that prefers that from our end.
I know that,
but
I'm just saying
nobody wants that.
I think I have never seen a rezone decision where in the end the decision's not about how does this apply to the zone. It's who's going to be worse of a headache on a lawsuit.
We'll talk a little more off camera too about. about the legal side of this.
And the church, I thought, went in there a little Pollyannish.
Mm-hmm. Well, of course they did.
Right.
I said to them a few times, guys, this is a different. This isn't.
Like I sat
You're
with,
not in.
I
You're
sat-
not in
I
the
sat with-
sanctuary
I sat
now.
with Chris over lunch one day, and I said, "Well, who's your lawyer?" And he goes, "Oh, we got some church lawyer in Phoenix." And I went, "Brrr."
It's been an interesting. That's been going on now for over 3 years.
I bet.
Actually, the idea and the concept came with Chris, and that's been probably
Stupid
5, 6
baseball
years.
players. No.
Yeah.
So, on the faith, family, and schools, right? So we need this is a cross the board heavy lift.
Mm-hmm.
So what are we talking about, right? So whatever you can do to strengthen your church, okay? Whatever, I don't care what you follow. I don't care if you're Christian,
Exactly.
Muslim, Jewish, Druid. I don't care what you are, okay?
Support that community.
Right. Support and be active if you can, okay? Schools. So if you're stuck in a crappy school and you could escape through charter or ESAs, I need people to run for school districts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I need good people to run for even if your kids don't go to that school, I need better people on school boards.
Yeah, I agree.
I know it's a free job and there's a lot of headache, but I need better people on school boards, because if you really sat down and talked to a bunch of these people on the school board, you'd be kind of like, you're in charge of what? You're in charge of educating 16,000 kids or whatever the number is.
Yeah.
You would kind of go,
I've always said I want to support schools from a selfish standpoint. If nothing else, if you can't come up with a better reason, here's why. As we all get older,
right.
Don't you want smart kids taking care of you? The next
Always.
generation of whatever they are, the road builders, the small business owners, the doctors, the lawyers.
Remember, as
Don't you want
parents, we
smart
always want our
people?
kids to do better.
Exactly.
Than we got.
Exactly.
Billy Joel saying we're supposed to get as far as or better than our old man got.
Now, don't make my mistakes. You'll make your own, but
Right.
avoid these. Do better. Set the bar a little higher. That's a line I've used with especially my son a lot.
Yep.
Hey, set the bar a little higher. I know you can clear that one. Find out what your limit is. Find out what your max is.
And on the school part, right, that literacy thing we talked about earlier in our conversation is, so I understand that we have schools that, for some reason, we're really cool on drag shows. Okay, so instead of doing drag shows and finding, the big, hairy 400-pound guy in his lingerie to read, Fox and Socks, right? How about all of these retired folks who are sitting home lonely watching Matlock and say, why don't you come in and help those K through 3 kids through their reading because their parents aren't doing it. Mm-hmm. I don't know why that's such a tough thing.
Yeah,
Let's
really
get grandma and grandpa into the school and help kids read.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%.
I don't know why that's such it's like people are like, well, I've never heard of that before. Yeah. I don't know why that's so hard.
David,
They're
we're going to have
there.
to get more involved. We got to go read to the kids.
You do.
Well, we're going to have to. We do a lot of stuff with the schools here in Marana.
I know.
And we do it on purpose. We have again that agenda is I want smart people taking care of me as I get older. And if I can be there and encourage one kid, we have a program called Unrestricted Free Agent. It's part of a paywall, behind a paywall now at LTD. But when it was free, and we've given it to them, but we had several high schools. I had teachers come up to me in everyday walks of life, go, we're listening to you. My kids are listening to this stuff. And it was free agency, but not in the sports sense,
right?
In your life. You can live your life as a free agent if you choose. And here are some parameters, or here's some things to get you. It's a state of mind, is what it really is. Because you don't have to be an entrepreneur or a business owner to be a free agent. You just got to think like a free agent. What am I worth? What's my value?
Amen.
And I wanted, and that was so cool that I had people come up to us going, I printed, you guys said such and such, and I printed it. Or my kids were going to do this interview, and I had them listen to this episode.
That's beautiful.
How cool is that?
That's
because
great.
If we're affecting one child positively, that might be the cure to cancer we're working on there.
So what you're talking about, right? So we talk about faith, family, schools, right? And we talk about family, right? And all of these things, is why does the world suck right now, right? The world sucks because people who were brought up in they were brought up in a world of crappy ideological schools, little or no faith, and a crappy family environment. Guess what happened? They're the presidents of universities, professors, principals, school board members, board of soups, U.S. presidents, senators, Congress people. I can just keep going.
Right. And you're right.
Right? We lost this over the last 50 years.
I would agree.
Right? And I will tell you that as a guy who is a right-leaning libertarian in a way, right? We abdicated those responsibilities to others.
Yeah, guilty.
That's what we did.
Guilty.
We did. You know, how many people you know in your life that K through 12 for their kid is babysitting?
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
nothing pisses me off more than when I hear parents in August go, "Thank God the kids are out of my hair going back to school." I'm like, "What? Kiss my grits."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I'm with you. I call them on it.
Right.
Are you serious?
I love my kids. Right? I'm not dying. I mean, they're supposed to go back to school. It's the rhythm. They got to educate themselves. But don't give me this, like they have that thing where they, even schools do it, right? They have, the mommies get together and have a champagne because they got rid of the kids.
Yeah.
Go to hell.
Hey, you don't want me in charge of your schools because we wouldn't take the summers off. I mean, you need breaks. But we're doing that because of the educators. We're not doing that because of the kids and the parents. They'd just soon stay on that schedule pretty much year round, wouldn't you? Take a week here, a week there. I'm gonna throw this out. Years ago, and this is probably 35 years ago, maybe longer than that. I'm not going to call names, and no one would know him. But I talked to a guy that I knew his son real well. His son just retired as an educator. But years ago, he told me, I looked at him, he'd got out of the teaching profession. He was a superintendent of schools in the area a small area near where I grew up. And he got out and he started Dairy Queens. And I called him. I said, "Hey, what are you doing? You love teaching?" He goes, "Clint, look, I love my job. And I love the kids. The parents come and go."
Yep.
But he goes, 2/3 of the teachers, I'm not knocking all teachers now because I'm going to come around. 2/3 of them would starve to death if they didn't have their teaching certificate because they're in it for all the wrong reasons. He said, now the other third, you couldn't pay them enough because they're in it for all the right reasons. Amen. And I've talked to a few educators since then. And I'm like, is this true? And they're like, no, it's worse. So what I want to do is support that third or whatever and pay them like we mentioned earlier about politicians.
Right.
You're going to get $150,000 a year because what you're doing is one of the most important jobs on the planet, and that's educating our next generation. Are you with me?
I'm with you. But, you have bad teachers unions and all these other things.
Well, look at the numbers.
Right?
When the unions got stronger, our numbers dropped. I don't think this is any coincidence. Do you know how many school districts there are in Pima County?
20.
28.
Okay.
At last count, and I haven't checked that in a while. And I don't think that we've lost any. I think we've added. So think about this.
So the one thing
28 administrators, 28 assistant administrators, 28.
I can go either way on this because TUSD was too big.
Okay. Well,
right?
Let's go the other way if you choose to.
So, but here's my thing, right, is what I'm sick of is this kid can't learn because he comes from a poor family.
Yeah, that's a joke.
I'm done with it, all right?
That's
I'm not saying it's not real. It's real. What I'm telling you is you have to assume, this is what I keep telling people, assume the kid has no family.
Yeah.
Right? Assume every kid's an orphan.
Yeah.
Right? And because that's the way you need to work it because it's become this crutch. Right? So a school district that does better, I'm not saying they're amazingly high, but they do much better than a good chunk better than TUSD is Flowing Wells. Well, if you look at total income demographic, Flowing Wells is worse than TUSD. Well, how are they getting it done?
Yeah.
Right? And they'll tell you, I've talked to Dr. Nick Clement, who is down there. I've talked to Kevin Daly, who's a former school board member. First day of school, kindergarten, they're getting the parents involved. Mm-hmm. That is their number one goal. You show up with that kid, you're not just dropping them off and going to go have champagne mimosas with your girls. Right? And because they get those parents involved early, and they teach kids to be good citizens. That's huge.
Yes.
K through 12
Yeah.
down there.
Yeah.
Right? That's how they're getting better results. Parents they're uber on getting those parents involved and good citizens in the kids. I've had people call the show. The grandma, I was going to my granddaughter's recital, and I didn't know where to go. And I couldn't believe how nice and helpful these 15-year-old kids were at Flowing Wells High School. I keep hearing that over and over again. It can be done.
Isn't that the number one skill?
Right.
Just being. I mean, I'll take less math, less reading if you're nice.
You're going to do golden rule on me?
Yeah. Be nice. Be nice. Be nice. Be nice.
It can be
too
done.
It's too easy to be nice if you choose to be.
So tripling down on the TUSDs. They're always crying, I need more money, right? You've gotten billions over the years, and you're at a 16% reading level.
I remember reading, this is dated a little bit, so we'll say this was 5-6 years ago. Arizona is always historically at the bottom state-wise as far as education.
For funding.
For funding and where we rank as far as education. Lower 40s.
Yep.
Washington, D.C., as far as education, where we're reading it, they're always at the bottom.
Correct.
Arizona at that time was getting about $12,000 per student. Washington, D.C. was getting about $28,000 per student, and they were both like 49th.
Money matters, but not that much.
It's just part of the equation.
What
are you doing
ever see the
with
documentary
the money?
Waiting for Superman?
Yes.
Just watch that movie.
Yeah.
It takes everything you just said, puts it in reality, and then blows up the narrative.
Hey, Clint,
yes.
you there?
Yes.
Hey, we are at the 1 hour mark. We gotta cut it.
Well, we're going to wrap this up. We're going to have to do part 2, Chris.
There's a lot of meat on the bone.
We're going to have to do part 2. So when we
okay
get done here, we'll set some time up. This exceeded my expectations.
Me too.
Of course, I knew once we got you kind of wound up, and he's been rehearsed. He's been on for 3 hours already. So
it's true.
We're catching him in the fourth quarter. He's going for the victory.
I used to have when we had new ownership. They wanted me to do 4 hours, and I started doing it. And we started off the fourth hour with Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. And it really was prophetic. And after about 6 months, I said, "You're crazy."
Yeah.
3 was perfect.
Yeah. Great album, by the way.
Oh, Carnival
That's
9.
another thing we can talk about is your music.
Brain salad surgery.
Yeah. It's a pleasure.
We can do food for an hour and rock for an hour.
We're gonna hey Dave, put it down. We're gonna start a whole new series here. We'll have to come up with a new title. Hey, Chris, thank you. This has been a pleasure.
You, David. I appreciate
we'll get
time.
after this thing some more. Yep. Appreciate it.
I enjoy talking
Thank
to you
guys for listening. All the stuff we talked about that was important, like websites and all that stuff, we'll make sure that's tagged on this reel. Talk to you later.
All right, my friend. Take care.